Brian.
So, Brian, we would like to know how you compost and like what do you do when you compost?
Okay, so we have our own compost pile that we do, and basically we put various waste, like organic waste from the store in there, as well as food scraps and things. But this compost pile is all compost that's been made for us by a guy in White Lake, Michigan, who has a composting company, and he collects leaves and grass clippings from various cities in the Detroit suburbs, and he breaks all this down. And what that means is basically this leaves and grass are allowed to decompose over 2 years. He turns them regularly so weeds don't grow on them, and to keep the piles hot. And then he screens them twice so there aren't big particles and sticks and stuff in it. And then we have this stuff which we sell to people in Detroit.
How is it good for the environment? Like, how is it healthy for the environment?
Well, compost is healthy for the environment in a number of ways, because the waste that is used to make compost would probably otherwise be going into a landfill. So you're saving landfill space by making compost. But then you're also able to use it to grow food, or flowers or whatever. It improves the soil, it increases the water holding capacity of soil. So it makes gardens and farms more resilient because they're healthier and the soil's better able to hold water and there's less erosion.
That's really interesting. So how do you know the compost pile is ready?
You know that your compost is ready when the pile is no longer hot, when it looks very much like dirt, when there's not a lot of big pieces in it, but you have like this fine, crumbly dirt. It's referred to as like having good crumb structure, so it looks like breadcrumbs. But the way that I really know that compost is ready is if I take some of this stuff and I plant some seeds in it, like radish seeds or something, and they germinate and start to grow without any problem, then I know that the compost is definitely ready to use.
So, like, let's just say, how long is it different from different like soils? Like, does composting help it grow faster?
Yeah, composting definitely helps plants grow better because it has nitrogen and a lot of other nutrients in it that plants need. It holds way more water than normal topsoil does, so you don't have to water as much if you have some good compost. I would say those are the two main differences. But also, all the microorganisms and stuff in there, they help fight other diseases that might be in the soil. So really it's a way of inoculating your soil against pests and diseases.
So it's much healthier, right?
Yes, it is.
So can you show us like the things you use for this compost and stuff, like the materials?
Yeah, that people grow commercially to sell the sprouts, and this is just what's left over, and we're composting that. You've got tea bags in here. You can compost those. We'll put coffee in there. We'll put banana peels, orange rinds. All kinds of stuff can go in the compost pile.
So, like, does it have a bad smell or any type of smell?
As long as you put enough brown material on the compost pile, so that would be stuff like straw or leaves or whatever, that brown material is going to soak up all the nitrogen materials that would make those bad smells. So you can really control it pretty good if you have enough straw or leaves on here.
Yeah, that's really interesting. So, we should wrap it up, I guess.
Sounds good. One more question?
So what's the difference between compost and fertilizer?
Well, compost, I would say, is a form of fertilizer, but it's other things as well. When people talk about fertilizer, they're talking about something that's generally just nutrients, whereas compost is it's a form of dirt. It's a form of soil. And it's an ecosystem. It has, every inch of compost has millions or billions of microorganisms in it. So bacteria and fungi and all these other things that are really good for your soil.
So I have a question. What materials would you use for composting? Like, what would you use?
Well, to make compost, you have two primary types of material. Those would be brown materials, so basically like dead plant material like straw and leaves, maybe even cardboard and newspaper. And then what's called green material, and so that would be like fresh vegetable matter, leaf clippings, fresh leaves and things. But you know, generally speaking, you don't want to put meat in a compost pile. You don't want to put oil or like dairy products in a compost pile because those are going to attract vermin. Although, you know, on large farm scale compost, you could put that in your compost pile because all that stuff will break down. Basically, anything that was once alive.
So what is like disadvantages and advantages of composting?
Well, I mean, I think the advantages of composting are incredible. You know, not only is it a form of fertilizer, not only does it improve your soil, help your soil hold water, do all of these things that are great for plants and soil. But, you know, it's a pretty simple form of recycling. I think the only disadvantage is that, you know, it requires space. Sometimes if a compost pile isn't well cared for, it can start to smell and attract vermin, but that doesn't happen too often. So I think the advantages really outweigh the disadvantages can be composted.
So what about, can compost get contaminated by those things?
Generally speaking, like any sort of chemicals that had been on plants would be broken down in a compost pile. The heat and the biological action of the pile breaks down chemicals, or they just drop out, you know, as water moves through the pile. But there are certain chemicals that have been known to withstand a compost pile, so it's good to make sure that you're not putting any treated material in a compost pile.
Do you sell for composting items?
Well, you know, we sell like pitchforks that people use to turn their compost. We sell a lot of finished compost though, because although a lot of people do their own composting, you know, we sell watering cans and hoses, and basically we sell everything that you need to make a garden happen or to grow your own food. So, you know, seeds, tools, all sorts of different things, as well as, you know, selling the dirt and the compost and the mulch outside, which we deliver all of that stuff, and that's a big part of our business, and we're one of the only places in Detroit that does that.
So like,
as well as, you know, selling the dirt and the compost and the mulch outside, which we deliver all of that stuff, and that's a big part of our business, and we're one of the only places in Detroit that does that.
Wiggly Worm here. I just wanted to tell you a little something about compost. That's right. Compost is my most favorite thing. So nutritious, delicious, it makes me want to sing. Making plant food instead of filling landfills to get peace of mind and lower utility bills. Save those kitchen scraps, they don't go in your trash. Make your own bin if you're short on the cash. Microorganisms, break it down into nutrients. Reuse it again, composting makes sense. Composting! It's a way to recycle! Yeah. Composting! Another way to recycle! What? Composting! It's a way to recycle. Yeah. Composting. Another way